Hello, Gemini, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day. This will be your weekly reading for the week of July 19th through the 25th. And during that time, we first have a waxing crescent moon. That's a time of heightened senses when we're just starting to work on those things that we've decided to work on during the new moon. So good energy, good time to, make plans and get those things started. And then just about the time you get started, we've got our first little interrupter, and that's the first quarter moon. So that comes in on the 22nd, 23rd, depending on where you are. And it might just be a couple of hours, but it's almost like the full moon energy where you feel impulsive, impatient, your mind's a little active. You're frustrated that you can't get things done. It's just really hard to focus. So keep that in mind and either work through that or realize that that's a time for us to learn how to be in control of our impulses and to dominate those things. So, it's like a little gift that you get. It's almost like a practice for the full moon when that comes around. We then have the waxing gibbous after that. So as that moon starts to increase, we can now buckle down and get back to work. A good time for acting on our intuition and our introspection as we're working towards those goals that we've set for ourselves, and also showing that we can be flexible and make adjustments. So please keep those moon energies in mind as we move through the week. This will be an intuitive general reading for energies that you may or may not encounter, Gemini. So, as always, please take what resonates and leave what doesn't here on the table for someone else. And your overall message for this reading is a new romantic cycle begins. Well, isn't that lovely? I like that because my husband's a Gemini, so good for me, right? All right, let's see what the tarot has to say about that for you, Gemini. As I'm shuffling, my fun weekly reminder for you is that you keep a spiritual journal. So, oftentimes when we're learning things in our spiritual life, we just forget to journal them or write them down. And I think it's a really good idea. I started doing it and I can kind of keep track of, when things happen. There's a time when I thought, when did I learn this thing? How many years ago? And I have the worst memory for that sort of thing. So keeping a journal can help you keep track of things that you're learning, synchronicities that you're having, maybe even dreams you're having, that sort of thing. So keep a spiritual journal. And that is my fun weekly reminder for you this week, Gemini. All right, let's get into this reading. July 19th through the 25th, a new romantic cycle begins. All right, your overall present energy is the Seven of Swords. Okay, so, I call this card, this can be like our poker face card, in that, you've got a lot of information here. Like, let's say you have seven thoughts, but you only leave two of them. There's some that you're kind of holding back. So maybe you're in kind of holding back phase for whatever reason, and maybe we'll investigate why as this goes on. But this is can be our card. Typically as tarot readers, we're taught that this is cunning, crafty. This could be theft or hidden agenda. So maybe you have something like that going on in your romantic life. Maybe you're trying to be a little crafty. Maybe you're trying to plan a surprise. That could be something that's happening, that you're trying to do your poker face because you don't want your partner to know that you've planned, I don't know, some romantic getaway or something going on. So that's okay if that's what's going on. All right, let's see here. What is your current situation? Things happening rapidly here with the Eight of Wands. So, and wands are about passion. So that's a lot of fire things, things happening in the passion realm perhaps, but happening very quickly. So it's just kind of a time to maybe manage all that as information comes in very quickly, and maybe as things again change if you're in this new romantic cycle here. At the root of your situation are all the choices. With here's a seven. Now we've got two sevens on the table. And an eight. So seven of cups here is about having all the different choices. And so it's basically saying choose wisely, choose what you really do want, choose carefully, but 2 7. So I want you to look up angel number 77, see if that has any bearing on your situation this week. Also, in your recent past here, Gemini, is the World card. So, you're in a good place where you're nice and balanced. You might have just wrapped up some sort of ending, which is bringing you to this balanced place. And maybe that's what's opening up this new romantic cycle. It could just be a change in your life situation or something, maybe life's been a little bit hectic and things are calming down. There's just a good balance, things going on, some good harmony, maybe a little bit more freedom when it comes to your time, and kind of maybe rediscovering your partner, whether you've been in a relationship for 2 years, 20 years, or 200 years, however many. But take that time to recognize that when your situation changes, sometimes then you can, turn your focus more towards a relationship. Sometimes we all get busy with things that are going on and we're not super focused on our relationship. So it's good sometimes to turn that spotlight back on it and just kind of renew what's going on there. Make sure that you're touching base and having good conversations and that sort of thing. What is on your mind this week is the Hierophant. So maybe that's why you're seeking some sort of spiritual guidance. Maybe you're sensing something like that, hey, I need to, I need to boost up whatever's, I need to kind of renew or, have this new start or a new cycle. For romance in my life. And if certainly that comes into the spiritual realm, we're together for spiritual reasons. I always say that our partners are they're our biggest teachers about ourselves because they are mirroring things back and they're also pushing up and resisting things that like they're there to teach us. I feel like I learned so much from my husband. We learn from each other and teach each other as well. So it's that kind of relationship. I know some people there's a saying that sometimes people are like, marriage is really hard. And I think that hard part is when you're trying to learn those things, because your partner should be there to challenge you and kind of push back against whoever you are or whatever, and not only to challenge you but also be your cheerleader when you do have successes and things. But you don't want someone who just kind of um that you can kind of just walk over and do whatever with. You want someone there that's challenging you, and that's the fun of a relationship, is that you're having fun but you're also learning as you go. All right, what is just ahead of you this week is the Five of Swords. So more swords coming in here. So, and maybe this is some sort of disagreement on how this comes about. This could also be winning. This is the card of winning through deceit or underhanded tactics. I mean, are you winning because you did some sort of surprise? That's really what I'm getting. I'm getting less that it's like an argument or a confrontation, but that maybe, you're starting this new cycle, and maybe there's information that you are holding back that you do need to share, whatever that might be. But I'm also going to say we've now got two fives on the table, 55. So look up 55 and 77. In your advice position here, Gemini, Page of Pentacles. So come at this with, maybe a gift. Honestly, this is our new path, but we're talking about pentacles, so it could be a new path in the material realm. And the advice is to maybe it's just a small little token, a small little gift of something that lets your partner know, hey, I heard you, I know you. This would be like, getting a book that they mentioned, or just kind of, I think it's really nice when, we have a conversation about something and maybe a few weeks later, my husband brings a gift that is a reminder that I heard that conversation you had, and here's this thing, that you were talking about or whatever. That's such a nice feeling that it makes you feel heard and listened to. So make sure you are listening and hearing those sorts of things. And maybe you heard something a few weeks ago, and this is the time to bring a gift up if you're doing this new romantic cycle. Like, I heard you that you need this thing or want this thing. Um, so I think bring a gift to it. I like that. What is beyond your control this week is the Empress, which is about being creative and doing something creatively for the long term. And if that's for your romantic cycle, that's awesome. That's being creative and wanting to make that commitment to do this really for years to come. And it could be something, something came to mind that there was a teacher that I had in high school. And I remember someone finding this information out and sharing it. And I was like, that is amazing. And this teacher was a male teacher and apparently would microwave his wife's towel every time she took a bath or a shower or whatever. He would bring her a warm towel from the, like, I guess in the microwave back in the day, would heat up her towel. And I was like, what? That's amazing. So and talk about long-term commitment. Apparently he did it every time. So this guy made this commitment at some point to long-term say, I'm going to do this really kind thing for this woman forever. I'm going to do it forever. I wonder if they're still out there microwaving towels. Hopefully I know a towel warmer, I think, came about at some point in time. I'm sure he invested in one. Anyway, it's about making that long-term creative investment and commitment to do something that is just good for someone else long term. In this case, romantically long term, which I think is really nice. I think it's a really beautiful sentiment. What is your secret desire, or what are you trying to avoid? 10 of wands there. So it's either your secret desire to push through and accomplish this thing, or you're just trying to avoid accomplishing it. And that will be a question, Gemini, that you need to ask yourself when it comes to a new romantic cycle. Is it something that you want to accomplish, or are you just trying to avoid it altogether? And that would be pushing through. Anytime we have a 10, it's like to push through to get it done, because then it opens up space for this new beginning. But what are all these wands? Are you carrying all these wands? And, does it seem like a lot? So ask yourself this question, or is it your secret desire to push through on this, to open up, to maybe do something a little new, like kind of end the old cycle, out with the old and in with the new? What is in your outcome position is the Knight of Swords. So information that comes in rapidly and fun. This could be and sometimes scary. Look at this, the poor horse. I think it's your outcome, so that it's like, communicate this to your partner. These things are these thoughts and things that you're having. You just need to open up your heart and communicate a little more. Make this long-term commitment to do something that's maybe very creative and fun. Just make the commitment to do it long term. Knight of Swords, that's information coming in quickly. This could be a love letter that you write. This could be a text that you send, or, just something, or words that you say. It's something about air energy, but it's something that you do rapidly and quickly. You're not waiting around to do it. If you get the notion to write a love letter, you grabbing the paper right now and writing it down. So do that thing quickly when it comes to mind. What is hidden from you here at the bottom of the deck, Gemini, is the Queen of Pentacles. So this is about, I know I almost felt like saying money is no object. We're not worried about trying to be in control of it. We're trying to be this page, and maybe a little bit even immature or fun with it. Just have fun with it. Sometimes you have, again, if it's a little gift or something, it doesn't have to be huge, but something that makes your partner know that you're being thoughtful and thinking of them. So, all right, let's get you a final message here from the Soul Oracle deck. Final message for Gemini as they're in this new romantic cycle. And the card for you is to accept what is. Accept what is when it comes to romance, and maybe how you are with romance. Are Geminis very romantic? My husband's not super romantic, so that maybe, I'm not even sure when I think about Gemini traits, if that's and if it isn't one of your traits, work on it. That's what I always say. If it's not natural, some of us have to work on things. I'm not naturally certain things, and those are the things that I have to work on the most. So if it's not something that comes natural, then work on it a little bit. But do accept what is, accept how things are, and especially maybe the feelings that you're having. So, all right, let's get you a self-care wisdom card. What does Gemini need to do in the way of self-care this week? And the card for you is to speak up. If you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. And maybe this is this Knight of Swords. Maybe there is some sort of conflict there, where you see romance in a different way than each other, but just bring it up, have that conversation. Don't start a war inside yourself. Have that conversation with your partner. Maybe, your ideas of romance are a little bit different, but you can come together and find something that works out for everybody. So, Gemini, thank you so much for being here. I hope there's something in this reading that you can take away and use in a positive way in your life this week. If you're comfortable sharing, of course, drop me a comment down below. Let me know if something resonated, or if you had questions. I'll be happy to answer those for you. And if you like my reading style, hitting like and subscribe really helps my channel. So thank you in advance for doing that. I do appreciate that. So, Gemini, good luck with all this. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.